Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Translationborne, the show where we talk about translation, Bloodborne, and the translation of Bloodborne. Also, for anyone who's interested in what happened with the doll set experiment, I haven't gotten any responses yet. With that being the case, I'm going to give things a little bit more time just to see what happens. But now let's look at an item description. Hand lantern. Small portable lantern. This hunting accessory provides light while leaving both hands free to hold weapons. The torch, however, provides a stronger source of light. Now let's compare that with a more literal translation. Portable lantern, a small portable lantern. It is one of the auxiliary hunter tools and allows for the gaining of light in darkness with the weapons in each hand capable of being used. However, the range to which the light extends is smaller than with the torch. This, as you can see, is a solid, straightforward translation. That's not to say it's not interesting, though. In fact, there are a number of aspects of this translation that I think really show a nice touch. It's something you can see even in the item name itself. Literally, Cathedral just means portable lantern, but translating it that way would not only add unnecessary repetition, it would also introduce an artificial term where a similar, historical one already exists. Here, for instance, is an example of an actual Victorian hand lantern, compared to the image we get with the item description in the game. As you can see, they're fairly similar, and they serve a similar purpose. They're both lanterns designed to be carried around with you. Of course, the counter-argument would be that in the game Bloodborne, the idea is to have a portable lantern clipped to your belt so you can keep both of your hands free, and a hand lantern, by implication, would take up one of your hands. Personally, I prefer the historical connection, and I feel like the idea of a lantern you carry around with you is a similar enough concept to work as a great translation here, but I can understand if you might feel differently. Most translation choices like this come with their own set of risks and trade-offs. You can see that again right in the next line, actually. My more literal translation calls the hand lantern one of the auxiliary hunter tools. The official version, by contrast, calls it a hunting accessory. And the trade-off that I see here is one between style and the clarity of a technical point. If you want to emphasize the existence of the category hunter tools, which your character is supposed to find throughout the game, then specifically calling the hand lantern a type of hunter tool, and introducing the subtype of auxiliary or supplemental hunter tools might be in your best interest. On the other hand, hunting accessory gets across a very similar idea of an auxiliary or supplemental hunter tool while sounding a lot more natural, if not being quite as clear. Again, my preference here is for what they've done in the official version, but the larger point is that every translation choice comes with its own set of trade-offs. And this can be true even in cases where the translation seems relatively straightforward. But enough about the hand lantern, let's turn to something a little bit more involved. Let's take a look at the translation of the communion rune. Communion, a secret symbol left by Carol, runesmith of Bergenworth. Several runes relate to blood, including communion, which raises the maximum number of blood vials one may carry. This rune represents the healing church and its ministers. Blood ministration is, of course, the pursuit of communion. Alright, and as usual, let's now compare that with a more literal translation. Reception, one of the hidden runes left behind by copyist Carol, a student at Bergenworth. There exist several Carol runes given the meaning of blood. Reception is one of them as well, and increases the limit on blood transfusion liquid. It is the symbol of the healing church, or alternatively of its healers. Blood healing is, essentially, nothing but the study of reception. As you can see, there is quite a lot going on there. I'm not even going to have time to get to all of it in this episode, but hopefully we'll eventually get to everything. For now, I'd like to start by focusing on some of the unique aspects of this rune, starting with its name. In Japanese, this rune is referred to as Hairyo, which ought to sound pretty familiar by now. As you may have gathered from the literal translation of reception, this is the latter half of the phrase Seitai Hairyo, which again literally means the humble reception of the holy body, and is actually used as the Japanese word for communion. This leaves us in an interesting situation. In Japanese, the use of the term Hairyo is clearly meant to evoke the concept of communion. But by singling out the term Hairyo, we are focusing specifically on one aspect of communion, namely the humble reception. The word itself in Japanese carries the nuance of receiving something that is bestowed to one by one's superior. Of course, given the concept of communion in English, it's harder to separate out just the idea of reception from that overall concept. Although, interestingly enough, if you focus on the effect of the rune, which is to increase your blood vial maximum, it kind of does draw your attention to that specific aspect of communion. Taken as a whole, then, I feel like this translation does a great job of getting the core idea of the Japanese across, where a more literal version might not be as effective. And on that note, let's check back in on this woman.
Oh, thank goodness. You're a hunter, right? Might you know of a safe place? The night is long, and I've very little of the incense left. Please, there must be some nice place to run off to.
You know what? I'd rather not tell you.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, if you do find a safe place, do be a dear and tell me. Around here, you're the only one I can turn to. You understand, don't you?
I'm not sure I do, but I am feeling a little guilty now.
Ah, hello there. Come to see me? Have you found any safe places?
Yeah, there's this one church.
Oh, thank you, darling. Maybe I'll see you there.
Alright, and everything else from here on is repeated dialogue, which I'm going to talk over. Anyway, one of the things that really strikes me about this NPC encounter, like many of the others in Bloodborne, is the tone of the interactions you have. This set of lines in particular, I think, really establishes a strong personality for this character. So let's take a look at some of the speech characteristics in the Japanese that I think really pin this down. Probably one of the strongest features of her speech is that it's highly feminine. Here's the Japanese for the first line that she says, with the feminine features of her speech highlighted in red. And this is typical for how she speaks throughout most of this set of interactions. She uses one or more feminine speech signifiers for every sentence that she says. Her speech style is also more typical and more casual than a lot of the other NPCs we've encountered so far, though she's respectful towards us. When she asks if we know of any safe places, for instance, she uses the term gozonji, which is honorific speech currently being directed towards us. Also, when she asks us later if we've come to see her, the Japanese notably uses the form kitekureta, which implies that we've done her a favor by coming to see her. This is in some contrast to how she's spoken to us before. When we first knock on her door, she makes a remark as to how unusual we smell, and then asks, "What is it then?" The Japanese is equally as casual and abrupt. We also know from talking with her earlier that she's capable of speaking in innuendo, when she says she'll leave us to our own devices. Put all of this together and I think it gives you a good idea of what this woman's character is like. She's earthy, approachable, and used to using her own allure to get by, sometimes laying it on a bit thick. Now, there's probably more to her character than this, but I think the official translation, and in particular the voice actress, bring out this reading very effectively. Also, note that details like this, tone and character voice, don't come across very well in a literal translation. Short of relying on something like footnotes, this is the kind of thing that it's important to reinterpret for the different cultures that are going to be experiencing this game. But anyway, now that I've died and we can easily continue our conversation with Arianna, let's go ahead and do that.
Oh, hello, dear. You weren't lying. This is a safe place. Thank you. I'm in your debt. I'd like to tender my thanks, but I haven't much to offer. All I can give is my blood. But would you even take a whore's blood?
I'm gonna say no.
Yes, I see. I suppose that's natural. If you ever change your mind, you know where I'll be.
Consider my mind changed.
Oh, you. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't help you. Unless you've had a change of heart.
Nah, just kidding.
If you ever change your mind, you know where I'll be.
Alright, for real this time.
Oh, you. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't help you. Unless you've had a change of heart.
I have indeed.
Oh, good. Come close, dear.
Okay, thanks for your blood. Now it's back to exploration and translation analysis. Having looked at the overall tone before, let's get into some of the specifics now. Here's another comparison between the official and a more literal translation of that past set of lines. Oh, it's you! Everything was just as you said. It seems like this place is still safe. Thank you. I'm very grateful. I'd love to show you just how much I appreciate it, but this is hardly the place. That only leaves my blood, I suppose. Do you not like women who sell their blood? I see. That makes sense, I suppose. I understand. Well, in that case, I'll just have to wait to show you my appreciation until after dawn. Unless you've got something against that, too. Oh, it's you. I'm sorry. I don't think I can help you at the moment. Or have you changed your mind? Then I'll just have to wait to show you my appreciation until after dawn. Unless you've got something against that, too. Oh, good. Then come here. I'm so happy that you would pursue me. And there you have it. Some pretty noticeable differences there. Honestly, I'm not sure I can explain all of them, but some of them I think will be made a little bit more clear if we look at an alternate set of dialogue for Arianna. She's one of the few different characters throughout Bloodborne that will talk with you differently if you play as a female character than if you play as a male one. So here's what it looks like if you talk to her as a female character, with some quick literal translations edited in for the sake of time.
Oh, hello, dear. You weren't lying. This is a safe place. Thank you. I am in your debt. I'd like to tender my thanks, but I can't imagine what to offer. All I can give is my blood. But would you even take a whore's blood? Yes, I see. I suppose that's natural. I won't try to tempt you.
So that's her initial dialogue here. Now we say no again.
Oh, you. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't help. Unless you've had a change of heart. Yes, of course. I'm sorry I asked too many questions. I'm very thankful for what you've done.
And this time we say yes.
Oh, you. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't help. Unless you've had a change of heart. Oh, good. Come close, dear. I'm always happy to help.
And now back to our original footage. So having seen all that, you may be asking yourself what exactly that clears up. But there's at least one line I think that alternate set of dialogue helps give us answers for. At one point, just after Arianna first offers us her blood, she says what I've literally translated as, "Do you not like women who sell their blood?" And the official translation is, "But would you even take a whore's blood?" And ordinarily this would have been one of the translation choices that I'd be especially curious about. But in the set of lines you get in the same situation as a female character, there's a line that I've literally translated as, "Do you disdain whore's blood?" It's a line where if you use the translation, "But would you even take a whore's blood?" it would sound very natural. Given that information, I think one of two things happened here. Either they thought that the line was close enough in the male and female versions that they decided to keep it the same, or somehow there was a mix-up and they put the female line in instead of the male one. The line does occur with the exact same timing in both cases, after all. But there is a larger set of questions that the existence of this alternate set of dialogue does nothing to change. Notably, in the Japanese, whether you're playing as a male or a female character, Arianna's first thought for how she can repay us for guiding her to safety seems to be sensual in nature, and she expresses this by heavy implication. This is something that, in the official English version, is either toned down so much it's hard to even pick up on, or that's been removed entirely. And I'm not really sure what might have happened here. Sometimes when I run across translation choices that I have a hard time following, my instinct is to get very technical with the Japanese to see where my own understanding may have fallen short. You can see some good examples of this in the last episode of Translationborne. But in this case, the set of changes involved are so large and so consistent that I doubt that's what's going on here. Another possibility might be that it was a deliberate localization choice to tone down the sexual implications here. Sometimes in translation, things that are relatively innocuous in one context can be seen as inflammatory in another, and so they're toned down or changed. This could be for a variety of reasons and come from a number of different sources. But I have to admit I'd be a little surprised if this were the case given the innuendo we've already seen used for some of Arianna's dialogue, her line in this exact same exchange about us accepting whore's blood, and the overall tone and themes of Bloodborne. Still, it is a legitimate possibility. There's also a chance that perhaps some of the lines in Japanese were changed after the translation was locked in. You'll remember I brought this up as a possibility back when we found the discrepancy in the translation of the Kirkhammer. Or it could be something else entirely, it's hard to know. In any case, that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for me, please let me know. Thanks for watching, everyone.